Good morning to many, good afternoon to others, and maybe good evening to others beyond that. I'd like to welcome EFE's many supporters and partners who've joined today, as well as newcomers to EFE. For those who are new, EFE is focused on providing job skills training and placement to youth in the Middle East and North Africa. Since its founding almost about 15 years ago, EFE has connected over 130,000 youth in the region to the world of work. And one of the things that I think we're most proud of is that more than half of those are young women. It's a critical part of our mission. This is the third event in our acceleration series, which focuses on rapidly advancing our mission to achieve greater impact. I want to thank you all for joining, and if you're not already involved with EFE, please check us out at efe.org to see all the different ways that you can get involved, and don't hesitate to reach out. Today's topic, preparing for a green revolution in MENA, is a really exciting one to me. And I'm very honored to be joined by a tremendous panel of speakers here. Kate Barker is a futurist and a future of work expert based currently in Dubai. Kate works with Fortune 500 companies advising on future of work issues and is pursuing her PhD exploring women in the future of work. Romina Bandura is a senior fellow at the Center for Strategic and International Studies. And I've known Romina for some time and known her to be extremely passionate and knowledgeable about future of work issues, workforce development, and youth employment. So thrilled to have her as well. And finally, Mohammed Mosly is an EFE-Egypt alumni, currently working in green industries and solar energy. And he currently holds the title of Enterprise Customer Service and Telesales Team Leader at Sunny World. So welcome to all three of you. Welcome. The green economy is certainly one which is gaining increasing attention around the world. And many experts believe that MENA is extremely well positioned to capitalize on this shifting economy with investments in the right areas. But one of the things that I think we'll be exploring today is how ready really is MENA to capitalize on this, and what does that mean? So we'll be hearing about our opportunities and important considerations for policymakers, and skills and competencies that are critical for youth job seekers in this area. And just to kind of set the stage, and this might be a little point of discussion as we go on, the UN Environmental Program defines the green economy as a low carbon, resource efficient, and socially inclusive economy. And a green job are those that contribute substantially to restoring or preserving environmental quality. A couple of real quick things. The UN indicates that up to 24 million new jobs could be created in the next decade in this industry. And those estimates vary relatively widely, but that was a good middle point, I thought. The MENA figures are a little bit less clear, but the ILO estimates that 1 million plus jobs could emerge in the green economy over that same period of 10 years. I think what is definitely certain is that jobs in traditional energy sectors are decreasing, and that those in green industries will increase. I think how much is still an open question. Real quickly, EFE is already engaged in some of these sectors. and has been actively for some time. In Jordan, for example, EFE prepared 160 youth to enter economies enter jobs in the green economy through a program that's sponsored by Co-Water, and ultimately placed about 106 youth into jobs in the renewable and efficient energy sector. A UK program supported in Algeria trained youth in waste management, aquaculture, building rehabilitation, and solar energy, and has begun entrepreneurship programs with a focus on jobs in the green economy. In Yemen, EFE is training solar power installation and maintenance technicians, and has thus far placed 100% of its graduate, indicating the high level of demand there. Finally, in Egypt, as you'll hear in a moment, there's also a growing need for preparing youth to enter into green industries. So I'd love to just kind of start by turning to Mohammed to tell us a little bit about his journey. We've spoken a couple of times, and I have to say, Mohammed, each time I leave so inspired by what you've done and your story. And I'm really looking forward to you being able to share it with us here. Mohammed graduated from university in 2011. And as he stated to me, was really looking for a job that would support him and his family, provide stability, and be fulfilling, be meaningful. But it was a lot harder than he thought it was, I think it's fair to say. He spent 4 years looking for work in the retail sector as a freelancer. I think he mentioned even trying in events management. And eventually, in December of 2015, he enrolled in EFE's job training and placement program. And I will let Mohammed pick up his story from there. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Andrew, for your introduction. Really, I'm so proud to be here with you today, and all my greetings to Kate, Romina, and all our guests. Really introduced most of about me, really. So really, I would like to speak about my experiment. As I've graduated from Faculty of Law, and after my graduation, I wanted to seek a job, to find really a job with good salary, which satisfies my needs, and to grow and to develop myself at work. Frankly, I've been worked in different sectors and fields of PC, computers, printers, maintenance, teaching for primary schools, and also working in events management, besides my working as desktop freelancer developer. With respect to those workplaces, I didn't find any challenge work at that time. I lived in informal and professional work. So really, I wanted to do something different. I want to be a people of values, not just want to be a puppet. I want to really to touch something, different, to make a real impact and a change that I want to do, to deliver a message. More than, as Andrew said, 3 years of employment, it's awful and horrible when you are really, you are become a burden in your family, and you didn't do any contribution to your community and society. That's a hard thing, really, as your value is null. So try to search online resources to find something really I could get benefit from. I searched online until I found stuff called my eyes, and I found the most precious gift I got throughout my life. It's EFE-Egypt. At that time, I booked a plane on EFE-Egypt, which it took really without landing to the horizon of successes. At that time, inside EFE-Egypt, I really touched respectful and professional training I got. Really, they are providing professional training depend on OJT, or on-the-job training, and included really with professional mentors. I've studied at that time JBTB, or Job Placement Training Program. more than 280 hours within 2 months. I got really the most critical soft skills I've learned at that time. And I'm sure after that, I'm sure that I'm equipped with the skills that qualify me to find a real job. After a few months, I've been accepted in one of the multinational and telecommunications company at Emirates as international account advisor. And one of the most surprising, Andrew, that I've been accepted at that company really by the graduation project I've been executed at EFE. It's about converting containers into livable places. That's really one of main reasons that make me to apply it. And I stated that this project reflected two stuff to myself, social corporate responsibility, and this is will make me accountable toward the stakeholders, shareholders, and people. And I've learned from that project to solve problems creatively and with a structure and analytical thinking. And this will qualify me to solve problems of customers with a creative manner. This is really one of the most impressive things that I got from inside the communication soft skills that really I applied as an account advisor and now as a team leader.
Excellent. Well, it's as I say, it's an inspiring and impressive journey, and we'll hear more about some of the things that you're doing in your job as we go through. Romina, I'd love to kind of turn to you here real quickly and get some of your insights. We often think about green jobs as being in the energy sector. That's a kind of a common perception, but it's a lot broader than that. So would really appreciate some of your bigger picture thoughts on the types of opportunities and trends you're seeing, globally and MENA.
Yes, of course. Thank you, Andrew. And what a pleasure and honor to be sharing this panel with Kate and Mohammed and on the staff of EFE. So I'm very grateful for the opportunity today. This is a super important topic. As you know, we are some of our regions are coming out of the pandemic, and we have to shift from the health discussion to the restarting the economy and the jobs discussion. And so jobs are, at the center of the global challenge right now. I have some, my comments are going to be more macro, Andrew, as you mentioned. Mohammed is a very inspiring story, and I'd like to, have a discussion later on. I think, he mentioned problem-solving skills and soft skills as important components of this transition. So I'm going to give you some, overall figures of the trends, and I'll share my screen. Just give me a minute, because I did not graduate like Mohammed. I graduated in the Jurassic era, so wonderful. So as Andrew mentioned, and my presentation is very short, so I don't want to bore you to death, but we've been looking at CSIS on this topic of the future of work and how it affects developing countries in particular, because a lot of the discussion has been on how these big trends such as climate change, technology, demographics, and in developing countries, there's a fourth trend, which is informality. How are all these aspects impacting the world of work? In the North, in OECD rich countries, the discussion is very technologically driven. The robots are going to take our jobs and things like that. But it's more nuanced than that in developing countries. And what we see in MENA, that the type of green jobs that we're talking about are not only in, the energy sector, as Andrew pointed out. Yes, there is this rise, this transition to to an energy, to a green energy economy, the rise of renewables and the decline of fossil fuels. There's also this talk, this concept of the circular economy, where new jobs, for example, in the recycling industry can be created. But it's not just about energy. It's about also greening existing industries. So think about the automobile industry, how it's changing from the types of fuel that it's using and the processes. So the electric cars is one example. Think about services. So in many countries, ecotourism is a sector that is starting to pick up. But also, agriculture. We don't think about, greening in only in the energy sector, but sustainable agriculture processes that can use, less water and less, of our carbon footprint. Transport is another sector that can, be an opportunity for greening, and of course, construction. So, again, the key message here is let's not just focus on, solar panels, but, go beyond that. Now, the transition to green jobs is not like a kumbaya happy thing. There's going to be winners and losers. So it's not, yes, it will create, as Andrew mentioned, this is the same figure, statistic from the ILO. Yes, there's going to be, we don't know yet, these are all estimates, how many green jobs can be created. The ILO is the leading labor authority, let's say, in the world. They estimated 24 million jobs can be created. But there's going to be 6 million jobs lost. And this is because we're transitioning to, from fossil fuels to a more, green economy. But compared to the rest of the world, the MENA region is going to, some countries, of course, not all, those that rely heavily on the, fossil fuels sector, they're going to have a harder time transitioning. And this is problematic because, we don't only have, sectoral changes, but there's also a demographic shift happening. So when you think about the drivers of the future of work, it's not just, technology, climate change. We also have to think about the supply side, the population sizes. So my next slide talks a little bit about what are the demographic trends in the MENA region. And again, MENA, it's 21 countries, very heterogeneous. These are very, broad trends. So I'm trying to be, humble here. We have Yemen, which is a, low-income country, in a fragile situation with war happening. And then you have Qatar on the other extreme, very rich, a country with a more diversified economy. So what's happening is, in 30 years, the demography population is going to almost double. And that means that people will need, youth will need jobs, will need economic opportunities, and will need education. 2/3 of the population is already under 35 years old, which is a, big challenges. As Mohammed said, youth not only want a job for the income, but it's, they have their dreams, aspirations, they want to be part of society, want to contribute. We all want to add value, right? And the big issue is, not so much about the degrees and the tertiary education that is happening there, but there's like a mismatch. People might be educated, but there's a big unemployment challenge in MENA. And it's one of the regions with the highest youth unemployment. Last I checked, World Bank / ILO figures place it at 26%. And this is, the formal market. So, we have a troubled situation in terms of demographics and unemployment. So, I have 2 more slides left, and then I'll shut up. But the oil industry is a big is a big component of GDP in some of these countries. We see, you know, services sector are increasing its share of employment. This is a sector that can be green, but you know the opportunities are there. But you know we have to be a little bit more strategic in how you know we tackle the services sector, and of course agriculture and manufacturing have been like on the decline. So what are some takeaways in terms of what will MENA require in terms of investments in education for green jobs to happen? First of all, you know, I think, you know, the basic is, you know, the basic education skills. The World Bank has estimated like 60% of the children in the MENA region cannot read with proficiency. So there's low quality education, even in the basic education. There's also deficiencies in technical and vocational training that, you know, organizations such as EFE are trying to match, you know, the private sector with the workers and see what are the skills that, you know, are demanded that need to be taking place. And again, as I mentioned, there's this skill mismatch. You know, you might have graduates with, you know, very good degrees, but the labor market is not demanding that type of, you know, of skills or of knowledge. And so there has to be that conversation between, you know, what the education system is churning and what the private sector needs. And so, you know, my last point is that the greening of the economy, it's not just about engineering and STEM, you know, science and technology and math, but a whole set of skills. It's also digital skills. It's these soft skills that Mohammed talked about. So problem solving, critical thinking. There's a wide variety of jobs out there. It's not you have to be a PhD or, you know, an engineer, but, you know, as I mentioned, these industries require a whole set of skills. And so I'm happy to, you know, talk about this later on, and I'll stop here.
Well, thanks, Romina, for the broad overview. Would love to turn to Kate now, who is in the thick of it in the MENA region, having spent the last 4 years there at least, and would love to kind of hear some of your reflections on the definition. Have we broadened it out enough of the green economy, but also maybe the importance of the skilling, the reskilling, and what initiatives you're seeing taking place in the region that might provide some hope that they are going to grasp the opportunities that present themselves.
Yeah, thanks, Andrew. An excellent presentation, Romina. Thank you. You've made my next step very straightforward. I'm going to, I'm a HR futurist, so I work with organizations around the world around key skills for the future. And the circular economy, if we put it into that space, is no different than any other industry we're feeling about skills. But I'm going to take a slightly different angle, if I could complement the work Romina's talked about. And I'm going to reflect on, if I get into a detail, specifically more about the UAE, which I know more about and can share with you in this light. We do know that there are going to be 160,000 new jobs created by 2030. And this is the green growth strategy of the UAE. And that was put together by the Future Possibilities report by the UAE federal government last year. So they have done the matching to the market around the investments in green industries and what is the takeout. Now, I've got to say, of 24 million jobs globally, 160,000 doesn't sound a lot, but is certainly a start. What I would also say, and to add to this discussion, is that we have a very narrow view of green energy jobs. We're going to see, and we're seeing based on the back of the pandemic, every job and every individual is going to be impacted in this area. And what we're seeing is that not only traditional industries, we talk about automation, automobiles, transportation, solar panels, we talked about green energy, water. We're going to see that in all industries as we change fundamentally the supply chains of every industry. And we saw that come through the pandemic. Every industry saw a significant shift in their supply chain to how they bring goods and services to their own countries. And we're going to see this significantly shift in actually having a green energy factor. We're going to see that in aviation. We're going to see that in retail. We're going to see it in food production. We're going to see it in services in all areas. We're going to see it in our own homes. Green energies as us as own energy producers in our own homes as we start to look to AI and digital transformation. So I suspect how we've defined green energies at the moment, and this is a fundamental shift, is going to be seen how we are defined at the moment, digital transformation. We're going to see the next move is in green energy transformation as we start to move into a more evolved world. So I'm quite optimistic about how we see these skills. What is troubling is we have a lot of investment in the industry, but we don't have a clear definition around the skills and the job growth that we need to match that. And where it's falling down is two key areas. The first one being how our university and tertiary qualification education are actually defining the skills to do that, and the policies required by government and industry to come together to identify how are those skills now going to be transferred by industries into the workplace. So we need to take a more holistic view to be able to help education and skills get to the industries where they need them the most. Now, it's interesting because we talk about all the technology and all the financial investment we've had in renewable energy, energy efficiency, public transport, even future cities that I've worked at across the UAE and into Saudi. The World Bank is still saying it's $100 billion investment gap for us to bring those jobs to those industries. So while we can have the supply of jobs, the idea that we have the demand of qualified individuals experiencing that is a massive shift. And we are currently in catch-up mode. We can only expect this industry to ramp up and grow towards 2013, particularly on the back of the pandemic. So the catch-up mode that we need to make sure that these skills are getting into the individuals that we need is key. Now, I'll talk about two key areas that I'm quite passionate about. The first one is that when we look at STEM skills and we talk about science, technology, engineering, and maths, we know that women are underrepresented in this market by at least 10% in MENA than they are globally. So globally, we have engineering, women are underrepresented by 30%, technology underrepresented by 40%. In the region, we take that off by 10 or 15% less. If we're only offering these skills, and I'm talking technical skills, through science and engineering qualifications, we're significantly missing out on 60 to 70% of women's participation. That is massive. So fundamentally being able to shift and take the skills that we need in these outside of technology engineering degrees and make them degrees that that women are going to be more attracted to, or to be able to attract women to apply for more of those degrees to get what is 50% of the population trained in these skills is key. The second area I'm going to talk about is soft skills. And Mohammed talked about creativity, which was wonderful to hear. And we don't hear this enough. We have people in these degrees that require creativity. And that creativity comes in the form of complex problem-solving skills. We are solving unique problems around the world. And this is not going to be solved by the same way we solve the problems in the past decade. This is bringing a level of creativity to how we solve this. Romina also talked about critical thinking skills. So it's not just about solving problems with the information that's given. It's actually diving deeper to deeply understand the complex problem to start with, then providing critical thinking to how do we go about providing a solution to this problem. I'm going to add to that is judgment and decision making. This requires unique problem solving, so we're going to have to use ethical decision making and judgment. We're going to have to bring more people management skills, as we have a population of 75% of the population in millennials. And we saw that 2/3 of it under the age of 35 in the MENA region. We're going to be able to have to bring those skills to bear. This is also emotional intelligence. How do we relate to people with the increase of artificial intelligence that will do a lot of our technical work? How do we relate, connect, and communicate to each other? And that is about the emotional intelligence in our conversations. And cognitive flexibility. So when we typically think about EQ skills, we also have IQ skills, but how do we use our cognitive flexibility to switch it off and on and move it across industries when we need to solve some of those problems? So these softer skills we learn by working with each other, working around complex problems in the workplace. And these are often not trained or developed at universities. These are usually skills that we need to make sure that people are picking up in the workplace as well. So things like coaching and mentoring become even more important to be able to develop these skills in the workplace. That's very long, so I might stop, Andrew, and give you an opportunity to ask any questions.
Not at all. That was a great follow on, and you've given us, I think, all a lot to think about here. So thanks for that. I think both of you, Kate and Romina, mentioned some aspect of the skills mismatch. Kate, you were really kind of emphasizing the urgency, I think, about getting that right now. And it's certainly not new. There's a skills mismatch in the current economy, if we can talk about it that way as well. So what can we do differently? What incentives can be put in place that will create this better flow of information, of demand for these skills and response by our educational institutions to provide those? And maybe that's a question for both Romina and Kate. And Kate, maybe I'll start with you.
Yeah, I think it was interesting because I've been, in my role, speak to a lot of experts globally around what skills we need to bring into the region. And part of that, where I started was actually through the companies like Amazon and Google, around what are they doing to build up skills and capability as young as in schools before we even get to university and colleges. And part of this is that how do we bring more of the needs that we need in the workplace back into the curriculum through schools, through colleges, vocational training and universities? And how do we get more collaboration between industries and education, academic societies? And how do we then create policies to actually make sure they're embedded? Too often we're operating in too many silos, and we see too many students coming out of training or academia or vocational development without the real tangible skills that's required in the workplace. And I think there needs to be a lot more development around that. And we say that's less about the technical skills, because a lot of that will be picked up by AI. And that is here and now. What it is skills around collaboration. How do we get people across cultures, across genders, across age groups, collaborating to solve some of the challenges or the problems that we face? How do we get them to think critically about these problems to solve it? How do they research and find information and put a judgment and decision making around that? And then I'll add to that is that how do we train leaders in industry to empower their people to make decisions? Often we see too many of these critical decision making or judgment being escalated up to senior leaders before a decision is made. And these problems need to be solved with the people who work with these skills day in, day out. So the ability for greater delegation, greater empowerment of people in the workplace, and giving them the opportunity to be able to make decisions around answering some of these problems. So I look forward to when we can see more collaboration across industry and academia to make that real.
Romina, any?
Yeah, I think Kate is right on the dot. We need more collaboration between the private sector and the education sector at all levels. And yes, we need to start early. And also give youth the right information of what I know careers are changing and they're changing all the time, but there's not a lot of information flowing back to youth that are going to decide, what to do next, after high school. So that's a big component where, the education institution and the private sector and, labor ministers and education ministers can facilitate the flow of information. So let's say, we want to become a hotel manager, what does that imply? What kind of skills do we need? And of course, we're going to change, careers in our lifetime, but, to understand really like what is the market demanding, and not just, what is the not to take a supply side approach to the jobs, but to take really a demand side. And some countries have set up, like India, sector skills councils. So industry associations in different sectors get together and figure out, it's hard to predict what the skills are going to be, in the next 10 years, Andrew, but just the sectors, the industries themselves sort of know better than, a government official or a researcher like me, like what are going to be the trends? So people that are really into the trenches. And again, we can't start, we have to start early on in school. And of course, the education system is not just to prepare people for the job market. The education system is, the function is to provide knowledge and help, these kids be good citizens and be part of society. But, at the end of the day, if they can't get a job or start a business, or then they can't really, if you cannot participate economically, then, there's a big, there's a potential for instability in a society. So we need to really marry these different sectors together, and that's all I'm going to say. Great.
Well, Mohammed, I'd like to get your input on this question a little bit too. I think you're now a team leader, so you're seeing recent graduates come in. What's your vision and experience from a practical point of view in terms of the skills that seem to really be missing?
Yeah, that's a great question, Andrew, really. Let me know that Egypt really has a huge potential to multiply and invest in the energy produced from renewable resources. And it has a greatest achievements in the production of electricity from renewable resources. But really, not just for Egypt, also the Arab countries have one of the highest potentials for renewable energy among the world countries. Really, let me talk about that. There's something important, that a green economy requires development of generic skills to work. And this, among other skills that are required really to work in green sectors. And this is generic skills help to prepare the workforce to understand issues of green growth and to interpret environmental legislations and to increase energy and resource efficiency. So really, both really, Kate and Romina, they stated that they're clear about the importance of the soft skills, and really, Kate mentioned something very important about the classification. We don't have specific skills or architecture or framework. That's so important. So my piece of advice to you, if you just would like to work in green sectors or any other industries, we could split generic skills to 3 classifications. This is also according to Dr. Margarita Bavalva, that we have 3 sections we have to concentrate on. Number 1, cognitive competencies, like environmental awareness and willingness to learn sustainable development systems and risk analysis, interpret and understand both need for change and the measures required. That's important. Also, innovation skills and R&D to identify a new and unlimited opportunities and create new strategies and business model to respond to green challenges. And the second one is interpersonal competences, like coordination management, business skills to facilitate holistic and interdisciplinary excuse me, approaches that encompass economic, and also really communication skills for discussion of conflicting interests in complex context. Marketing skills also to promote greener products and services. And the third one, intrapersonal competences, adaptability and transferable skills that help workers learn and apply new technologies and processes required to green their jobs. So at my company, really, after coming to Sunny World, are you structured within 90 days, the environment or the architecture organization at my company to really to create an effective and a positive environment work, where at the first I train my employees on soft skills, critical, like communication skills, emotional intelligence, problem solving, and all of these really critical skills. And I'm aware of that word, that this is very important. Maybe just, you know, Andrew and Kate and Romina, 2 letters of no could it change other life from death to life and vice versa. So you have to know what to say, and not just what to say, you have to know how to say. So really, my focus on the skills is so important and crucial to leverage your potential. And after that, technical skills are coming. That's so important for youth if you just would like to start their career and to really find themselves in real jobs, not just delusions of jobs or unprofessional jobs, such as I found before that.
Great. Well, thank you. I completely agree, and it sounds like you're taking a lot of the lessons from EFE and spreading them around Sunny World.
Sure, yeah, it's a journey. This journey will never end till last breath of my life. I will take this. These skills is transferable skills. That's so important. You could tailor this. And what I found is really that they tailor the programs.
Right.
One example they discovered, or they recognized, discovered for myself, recognized my thinking, that I'm thinking with complex or divergent thinking. This is one of the most complex thinking, really, and how I use that to really employ it in my creativity or my analytical skills. We have skills really gaps with this, like data analysis, and at that time I'm studying shared our programs focuses on analysis and how to employ it. So it's a very important, really. It's not exaggeration about that place I got from.
Great. So before we get to some of the questions that are being asked by those who've tuned in here, and I want to get to those in just a second, so we'll keep this very brief. But Kate and Romina, you know, the MENA region is certainly going to be competing for these jobs with the rest of the world in some cases. And in some cases, MENA is really well positioned, I believe, for certain aspects. Have you given any thought to what areas, if you were advising governments as to where they should be making investments and trying to develop the sector. What advice would you give? And again, very briefly, so we can get to some of the other questions.
That's a tough question, Andrew, but I'll take a stab, Kate, and you know, maybe you have other thoughts, but you know, investments in you know, the issue of job creation it touches upon many different aspects of an economy and of society. So I would say, you know, investments in infrastructure are key. You know, to a transition to a greener economy. I think investments in, you know, the MENA region has a great potential for tourism, which, you know, you might not think of it as a green job, but, you know, you can establish processes to make, you know, the industry you know, more energy efficient. So I think, you know, construction and tourism are areas where I see growth potential. Of course, you know, the COVID pandemic has set us back and has set us back also in terms of skilling. We talked about soft skills. Unfortunately, you know, if children are not in school and they don't have the social emotional experience, that also impacts, you know, our skilling for the future. So we'll have to have some catch up to do, you know, after this pandemic is over. But I would, you know, those are two areas that I would invest in. Kate, I don't know.
And Kate, you might not even agree with the premise of the question, given some of your remarks of all sectors, but.
Yeah, it's interesting. I spoke last month about a project, funnily enough, that was operating in Saudi Arabia. So Saudi Arabia has actually built one of the largest or the largest solar panel manufacturing plant in the world. And the idea that it is one of 50 that will provide power electricity to 50% of the world. So when we talk about, you know, MENA region is ideally positioned because of its climate and its location to really provide some advanced strategies on how they do this because of the circumstances and the environment we live in. So I think it's quite unique in that sense. Mm-hmm. The other aspect to that is that the UAE particularly is driving a lot of entrepreneurship, which will drive creativity into this industry. So while we see green energy jobs, and it's a spectrum, right? You can go completely from solar power to, you know, bringing green energy into aviation in small steps. The idea that we're bringing entrepreneurial style thinking to the problem brings a level of problem solving, critical thinking and creativity to how we look at this from a different angle. And I think in a region that's heavily reliant on oil and gas at its primary industry, I think that's a really creative way to bring in new ways of thinking from global leaders around the world to this region to solve some of the most complex problems we have with the climate and the reliance on oil and gas in this industry. So that is a unique way, I think, that the government's also approaching it.
Absolutely. Great. So I want to turn to some of the questions that have been written in by those that are watching here. The first one, I think, to Kate, in your opinion, do gains in green jobs cause net job losses?
I have an optimistic view towards that, and I don't think that's the case. So the latest report is said as 160,000, and we're saying a boost in GDP between 4 to 5%. Now, of course, the oil and gas industry is 17 to 19%, and we'll never get to an equal status. But I think, as I said, the industry, the environment here lends ourselves to be global leaders in how we do this, because it necessitates, if we have living conditions here and we boost tourism, that this is going to be a requirement of everyday life.
A question for Romina. How do you think governments and corporations in MENA can promote green jobs for youth? And do national employment policies and programs help?
Yeah, I mean, again, I think it has to be, you know, a concerted effort. They have, you know, the education and labor ministries have to talk to each other, and they have to, you know, get together with the private sector, with any, you know, trade associations that the countries have, because you know, information is needed for the youth in order to transition to this new green economy. I mean, it's just, you just can't say, okay, you know, I want to be a lawyer, and you know, there's no, you know, maybe there's no demand for being a lawyer, right? There's too many lawyers in the country. You need to have that information saying, you know, this is what what's the future bringing. And I think, you know, governments of course can help, but they can't do it alone. And we, you know, sometimes like to put, you know, the blame everything on governments, but it has to be a conversation and a structured conversation between the private sector and governments, and to, you know, circle back to the education institutions. Otherwise, we're, you know, like Mohammed and Kate say, we're just being, we're taking a siloed approach to the issue. Yeah.
Great. To Kate, I think a follow-up to a comment. Is there a study that shows what specific skills are required for specific jobs related to the green economy?
No, and it's interesting because that's a great question. What's happening is there's a lack of research, and this is the issue we're finding, is there's a lack of policy and a lack of research to identify what are the specific skills matched to industries that then you take into the education system. So when the World Bank says there's $100 billion investment gap, the gap is the spend on research to identify this. So at the moment, we're really relying on public and private organisations to be able to identify where the gap is in their own businesses and actually look to the market for those skills. And I think there's a unique opportunity. If there's any researchers on this call that are interested in going back to do their PhD or some study in this area, that would be a really critical part to start to look at. Great question.
There you go, Romina, and your next challenge at CSIS.
Well, I would say that, you know, I want to, you know, there are institutions out there that have deep knowledge, you know, like the World Bank and the ILO. ILO has a green jobs unit. So there are studies out there. Of course, as Kate mentioned, the best way to understand about these skills for the green economy is to go to the industry associations as well. So the, you know, the private sector, and you know, Andrew, you're in the thick of this. So you know, people that are in the trenches that really understand what are the demands, and you know, what are some of the you know, what the vision is for the future, you know, and so these are some sources where that are going to be, you know, consulted and needed in the future. So I would say yes, the you know, the international organizations such as UN and World Bank do really good research on these areas, and you know, the private sector associations as well.
So as usual, we always have a lot more questions than we have time to answer. Also, as usual, we will make a commitment to answer all of the questions that are asked in written form following this. So we will respond to each of the questions that's been asked here. And I'm going to give a quick preview of one of the last questions just to give our panelists a moment to think about it. And then I'm going to ask Mohammed one of the questions from here. So just so you can begin to think, I'm going to ask each of you to just think what advice you would give to youth in the MENA region now who are considering jobs in the green economy. So you can percolate on that for a moment. But Mohammed, there was a question specifically for you, wondering how finding a job has changed your life.
Finding a job really totally changed my life for something different. Now I'm proud really that I've studied and I hold a business leadership degree from Queen's Ireland, one of the top 50 universities in the world. And I'm continuing, to grow and to develop myself. And really, there is no limit when it comes to following my passion. I will do this, and I will really not just. I met every students and graduates every day, and they are talking to me how we could start. I want to really to help them as much as possible. I wanted to train and want to really to advise them how they go, and I will do this. So really, it's a long journey. It's not a short journey. It's a passion. It's a success. Really, success. It's a button to word. By the way, I know that to achieve success, you have to both of two stuff: inner life and outer life. Outer life, it's about recognition from society, the achievements you are doing, and this is just a part of success. And the other side, it's happiness and fulfillment. So inner life plus outer life equals success. And really, I'm doing this, and I have to do this. And really, there's duty to serve people and to serve youth. And I'm here for them, really, not just for myself. I want really to do everything as much as I can to leverage their potentials, and they could get their land or their dream of jobs. That's so important to me.
So it sounds like one of the big changes that getting a job has had for you is it's put you in the position to positively impact others as well, which is
yes. Let me, Andrew, I will show you something about that. If you see that picture or this, sorry, coin, I love that coin. I'm sorry. Yeah. This is coin is special for me. It's Egyptian, 1 Egyptian pound. You know what this is symbol? This is the solar, and this is under the picture is written Egypt, and above is Aswan Solar Parks. This is the largest solar parks project really applied by the World Group Bank. We contributed in the largest largest solar park in the world. We contributed with 270 mega of 2000. So I'm proud, really. I want to talk. I walk in the streets and talk to folks. Hey, I contributed with this project. You know how this come really by idea from my call center, from my team, and thanks to really wise management that they listen to the voice of change and develop. Well, this is what we are talking about: creativity and decision making. That's so important. I'm studying that at my business master. Decision making is so crucial, and really we are here at that project.
Well, that's great to see, and that's it's wonderful to have that reminder in your pocket every day, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Kate and Romina, thoughts about advice to youth as we close out here today?
Yeah, it's a fabulous question, Andrew, and a really great one to close out. I want to pull on Mohammed's passion. And if anything we get from this call is remembering Mohammed around his passion. And what I'd say to the youth is find an industry that you're passionate about. Learn about that industry, understand it inside and out, and then start to speak to people inside that industry about what they're doing about green jobs and green energy. Approach them around apprenticeships or opportunities that they use, or colleges or people they speak to around green jobs, and get to know and target them. And if you rock up on their doorstep, if you're persistent and interested and can show where you have unique thinking to how you can help that industry and that organization, that puts you in a really good stead. That's your passion about transforming that industry into green jobs that's going to make the most amount of difference. With that will be a lot of support, a lot of networks, and a lot of opportunities that will open up to you to do that. But if you can find an opportunity to get your foot in the door around an apprenticeship, some qualifications, a mentor, networking groups that can help you be really informed specifically around that industry and green jobs, that will set you apart.
Thank you. Romina.
Yes, and to add to Kate, yeah, network, volunteer, try different things. Don't be afraid to, if you can. I know, sometimes we don't have the economic means, but if you can volunteer after school in different, in different areas to see what you like. Don't always, listen to your parents, because, you also have to forge your path, and I would say it's not easy. I mean, finding a job in any industry is a lot of work, and especially I think for women it's even harder. So I would say just think that this is going to be, a hard journey, but, a worthwhile journey. And and like Kate mentioned, network, experience different things, try to get internships, and inform yourself. I think, that's don't wait for, the government or somebody to help you, because, you might have those resources, but you might not. So I think, it's up to you to do a little bit more work.
Thanks. So I think Kate's right. I think what we'll take away from this day is the passion that Mohammed has shown for what he's doing. I really want to thank our three panelists, Kate, Romina, and Mohammed, for sharing your expertise and your time and your enthusiasm for this. Education for Employment is really moving into the green job space rapidly, and we can use all the support that you can give. So please do visit us at www.efe.com or .org, excuse me. Check out how you can engage with us and support all the many folks like Mohammed. So thanks very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, and thank you to the audience that tuned in today. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.